Hello everyone, thank you for joining. I am Jisary and I welcome you to my channel where I do all different kinds of creative content. Today I want to start a new series on my channel. I call it What If? It will take an aspect of one style or series or brand and put it into a different context. For example, what if all Dragon Ball characters were female? Or what if Sailor Moon was a character in Record of Lodoss War? Or, like in today's video, what if the Oxygen Not Included characters were anime style? For the ones who don't know, Oxygen Not Included, or ONI for short, is a management game from Clay in which you manage so-called dupes that stranded on an asteroid. And you need to prioritize and plan their work and explore the asteroid in order to find resources to survive and build your base. It is one of my all-time favorite games, and I would strongly recommend it to anyone who likes management games. But be aware that it has a steep learning curve. But I didn't pick ONI only because I like the game so much. The game, like many others of Clay games, has a very unique art style. It looks a little like a scribbled version of a Sunday morning cartoon show. And even though I love the style and it works really well for the game, I thought it might be an interesting challenge to translate this style into an anime style and see how it works. I looked at one of the art covers and picked one specific character out to draw. And I chose this little fella. So then, today we will turn this character into an anime character and draw an illustration with them. Strap in, because here we go. So I picked this one for several reasons. Number one, I rarely draw characters with darker skin tones, so I thought this might be a good practice for me. Number two, a lot of the ONI characters have a more reddish, warm palette and I tend to be drawn to that. But this character in particular has a turquoise, more colder palette, which is a color range I barely pick myself. So again, I thought getting out of my comfort zone would be a good practice. I want to keep their clothing as is, and I also wanted to include one of the creatures in the picture. I love their design so much. I settled on the Shine Nymph, as I thought this might be also a good way to have some interesting lighting in the illustration. After trying out some poses and compositions, I also decided to include one of their tools. One of the artworks shows a retro-futuristic cannon, something I have also never drawn, so I wanted to include that one as well. Which brought me to the idea of having the character really pose with the weapon, instead of interacting with the creature. I thought a little about the Austin Powers movies. The blonde female main character, who was also dressed similarly and posing with a retro gun, so in my mind I took a little inspiration from that. This was the vibe I wanted to capture, plus the sassiness of the dupes that the game has. The game is sci-fi, so I also wanted to make sure to have a little bit of a space flavor in it, without adding too much background. And I decided to put the nymphs in the background for some background lighting. And I wanted to keep the background generally dark to have the space feeling. After the outlines, I just filled in the colors. I took them very closely from the artwork that I also took the character from. I didn't want to take any liberties here, but rather be creative with lighting and shadows instead. In the game, the dupes have many different outfits, even a spacesuit. But I wanted to keep the signature default clothing because they incorporate the typical ONI appeal, and most people who know the game would recognize the style. For the shadows I did what I always do. I added a base multiplay shadow layer and filled it out for the whole character. I picked a quite dark tone this time, as I really wanted to have a good contrast. This makes for a more interesting basis for background lighting. You can get more details on how I add and use shadows in my Easy Way to Color video. The link is in the description. For the lighting, I wanted to be a bit more experimental than usual. As always, I added a general color dodge lighting layer, but I also added a glow dodge layer on top, including different colors. And I played around with the opacity a little. In general, I added many lighting layers in this illustration, also for the background and backlighting. The add glow effect makes everything shine nicely. After the first round of basic shadows and lighting, I went in and added more multiply layers to give the character more depth. I also added colors and lighting to the nymphs in the background. In the game, they are a light source, so I wanted to make sure they really shine, also in this illustration. It was a bit of a challenge to make them not too distracting. Originally, I only wanted to add one, but I decided to add more to imitate a space sky. But this also made the background quite busy. But I will talk more about this when we tackle the background. I also gave the character some freckles to add cuteness and sassiness. Well, and because I love freckles. This was the only design liberty I took though. As usual, the eyes got a bit of a separate treatment compared to the rest. After everything had a base coloring and shading, it was time for the background. I usually start with setting the base color, which is dark blue in this case, again to imitate space. As you see, the nymphs in the background feel a little noisy, so I played around with some coloring, contrasts, and changing the nymphs' outlines around a little. At this point, I also added the backlighting to the character to make them more part of the scene and to create some contrast. I also added more multiplier shadows to give them a little more of a 3D effect and to connect them better to the background. You can never have enough multiplier shadows. Well, probably you can, but you know what I mean. I did the same for the lighting, just adding a little more here and there to balance out the added shadows. And I also adjusted the hue of some of the shadows and colors. The color scheme is pretty cold in this picture, so I added some warmer undertones here and there to make the picture look a bit more interesting. In the end, I always add some smaller details and clean everything up a bit. I always have a details layer on top of all the others for some end touches. After I was done with all of my little details, I looked at the illustration and thought that something was missing. The nymphs didn't do a good job to create the space vibes that I wanted. I took the intensity out a little, both in color and outline opacity, and decided to add more space vibe to the background, via different colors and some smaller dots imitating stars in different colors. Here I also used partially some warmer colors for some contrast. And that's it. Let's see the result in comparison, shall we? I think it really has some space vibes. And the dupe is recognizable. I think they look just as cute in anime form as in the cartoon style. I wonder what the game would feel like when all of it would be in a 2D anime style. Well, but probably not too different. What do you think? Would you have recognized them as an Oni dupe? Would you have picked another one of them for the series? If so, which one? Let me know in the comments. I think we did a fine job. Thank you all for joining. I hope you liked the idea of this challenge or series. I have a few other ideas already lined up for it, but if you have anything specific that you would like to see, let me know. I am always open for other ideas and inspiration as well. I will take my leave now. I wish you all a great rest of the day. Stay healthy and comfy until we meet again.